The two a response to two points which have been made. The first is that Shamina is not technically a dual citizen. I'm inclined to agree. She's only a citizen of Bangladesh if they agree to her citizenship, and they don't. And under the UDHR Article 15.2, it is actually illegal to strip somebody of citizenship and to leave them stateless. So a good question to the Home Secretary would be whether or not his actions are leaving Shamina stateless, because that isn't permitted under international law. He would argue that she could claim citizenship from Bangladesh. I suppose a good question would be whether or not Bangladesh made its decision about not accepting her before Britain made its decision about rejecting her, and so on. So again, it becomes a legal wrangle. The question which was being asked of the appeal court was whether or not the Home Secretary had the right to strip a person of their citizenship, and they concluded that he did have the right. I think it's important that we look at ideas rather than constantly look at the application of ideas. We're constantly looking at the practicalities, the politics of the thing can get a bit tiresome. We sometimes want to look at our thoughts. As Marcus Aurelius would say, your happiness depends on the quality of your thoughts, not the events that occur. And that brings me to the other question which was raised. Somebody said that the homunculus was not a feature of Kabbalism. That's not strictly true. It depends really where you identify the origin of the homunculus as a concept. You could go to Paracelcus in the 13th or 14th century, and 15th century, I don't know. He's one of the writers of one of the early writers of alchemy, and he gives very explicit directions about how to create your own homunculus using a horse's womb, and it's a central feature of the of the chemical wedding. I think there's a book he writes, A Chemical Wedding. But Anthroparian, I can't remember anyway. The works of Zosimus, you can find some reference to a sort of homunculus in the 3rd century, and I think the origins might well be there. You can also find reference to something like the homunculus in Islam, where it's called the Takwin. But essentially, the homunculus is a being that is created by humans using the concept of creation, which is divine. So this is something about this is very much part of the traditions of what became Kabbalism. And there's a story of a rabbi called Rava, Abba ben Yosef bar Hama, who creates a little human. He also creates a little cow, which I think he has for dinner. It's sort of the early version of Gulliver, and that is quite early. That's 12th or 13th century or something, well before Kabbalism gets going in the Hasidic communities. But the homunculus is supposed to be a being that is skilled in art, is capable of creating magic, is capable of foretelling the future. And of course, in the stories, it tends to be a little creature who can spy. It's the first artificial bug in literature, long before long before the idea of flying drones. The homunculus is there. Check out the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, because I think it gets it absolutely right.